Hey, I got something to share. Oh my gosh. Okay. Okay. I'm not gonna be silly about it, but like this is I meant to share it earlier, and yeah, so here we are, and I'm gonna do it now because I don't want to forget this. Earlier today on social media, one of the persons that I'm connected to on social media, a very blessed woman of God, made a comment in reference to children, right? And the importance of constantly making sure that you're on top of things as far as checking up on your children, just to make sure you know that they are behaving like they should. Now I'm doing an overview. You will see that on Facebook. I made on Facebook, I on my page shared the comment and made the comment about dealing with adult children also, you know, that nobody prepares you for the challenges of raising adult children, and the meaning behind that, because you definitely don't govern uh young children like you do adult children, but here's the difference. um Here's the difference, because I know it might sound funny, but here's the difference. With adult children, it's totally different. With adult children, you on your knees, you're praying. Consider Job. Cause thank you, Lord. I got to share this with you because I know it might sound funny me saying it like that, but consider Job. Look, this is Job chapter 1. Y'all know I got my Bible. Don't run off. You're going to want to hear this, because you're going to want to hear this second part, because I didn't even know I was going to share this with Job. But it said, let's see. So he said, Job chapter 1, verse 2, he had 7 sons and 3 daughters. Okay, so I'm going to skip down. Verse 4, his sons used to take turns holding feasts in their homes, and they would invite their 3 sisters to eat and drink with them. Verse 5, when a period of feasting had run its course, Job would send and have them purified. Early in the morning, he would sacrifice a burnt offering for each of them, thinking, perhaps my children have sinned and cursed God in their hearts. This was Job's regular custom. So Job, we're talking about adult children. Oh God, this here, you see Job not dealing with small children, but dealing with adult children. So our adults, they go out and they are living their lives and they're doing what they do. But sometimes in the course of their living their lives, and in the course of the things that they fall into themselves, sometimes, okay, so God just gave me, okay, so here's the deal. At the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, let every matter be firmly established, right? At the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, God just gave me my second witness. So my first witness was Job, and the prayers that he said and the sacrifices that he did for his adult children, his 7 sons and his 3 daughters. My second witness would be in Mark chapter 9, that part that I dealt with Mark chapter 9 last week in talking about the powerless disciples. But this time, am I dealing with Mark chapter 9? It has to do with the young man that this father was trying to get healed. So listen to this. Listen. So this is Mark chapter 9, and I'm going to start at verse 14. It says, when they came to the other disciples, they saw a large crowd around them, and the teachers of the law arguing with them. As soon as all the people saw Jesus, they were overwhelmed with wonder and ran to greet him. What are you arguing with them about? He asked. This is verse 17. It says, a man in the crowd answered, Teacher, I brought you my son who is possessed by a spirit that has robbed him of speech. Whenever it seizes him, it throws him to the ground. He foams at the mouth, gnashes his teeth, and becomes rigid. I asked your disciples to drive out the spirit, but they could not. Jesus says, "Oh, unbelieving generation," he replied, "how long shall I stay with you? How long shall I put up with you? Bring the boy to me." So they brought him. When the spirit saw Jesus, it immediately threw the boy into convulsion. He fell to the ground and rolled around, foaming at the mouth. Jesus, this is verse 21. Jesus asked the boy's father, how long has he been like this? From childhood, he answered. It has often thrown him into the fire or water to kill him. But if you can do anything, take pity on us and help us. Okay, so the father brought this boy, his son, to the disciples to get delivered. And of course, the disciples couldn't. Then Jesus showed up and he brought him to Jesus. So Jesus asked the question, how long has he been like this? The father says from childhood, which lets me know that this is an adult child, right? This is an adult child that the father is dealing with. So there's my two witnesses, both instances where parents are dealing with adult children, okay, and they're interceding for adult children. Nobody prepares parents for that. We see parents that are pregnant, expecting newborns, and it's all exciting to see the little bitty babies and that fresh baby powder smell and the little freshly washed baby smell, and like all of that is exciting. And then they get older and they do some little cute things as they're learning to walk and learning to navigate, and then they're going to school and parents are getting all emotional about that and yada yada. But then they get older, they get to the place where they're grown, they're adults, they're able to make adult choices, they're able to take accountability for these different choices, and you would think that after all that you went through, that as they got older that things will be easier and better, but depending on the time that you took as a child and what you instilled in them and how you trained them, if your focus has only been on clothing the body and feeding the body and covering the body with a roof over, if that has only been the focus, and the focus has not been the mind, well, of course the focus would be the mind with children with going to school, but if the focus had not been geared at the heart, which is the ground, whatever we think about gets into the heart, and what gets into the heart comes out of the mouth then, right? So if that had not been the focus, then as these children become adults, then the parents are going to step into this next level of parenting, which nobody prepares Nobody prepares us for. Nobody prepares you for the amount of tears that you're going to shed. Nobody prepares you for the intensity of interceding in prayer. Nobody prepares you for that. Nobody tells you to watch your mouth. Well, if you anywhere around me, and you know I'm going to be saying that, watch your mouth, watch your mouth, watch your mouth. But nobody really prepares you that you really have to watch what you say, because these things, the things that we say stick in the minds and replays over and over. And so we have to watch these things. And so I mention that because this young lady did this amazing post. Go look on my Facebook page. You'll see it. You would definitely see it. She did this amazing post about, showing up and just checking in, every now and then, just checking in just to see where these young ones are at. And when that was said, it just so blessed me. And so I commented, like I said, about the adulting. So anyway, in that comment, there's a couple of things that I thought of all of a sudden, like I thought of, I think it's in Proverbs where it says that we must know the what it say? Positively know the appearance of the flock. I think that's in Proverbs. But this one here, and I know this is going to go over the 10 minutes, so I'm not even worried about it. This one here is what really stood out to me. This is a parable that Jesus wrote or spoke, and that Matthew recorded. And let me tell you, I don't think that I ever really put the two and two together about this dealing with your adults, your adult children, but I'm about to show y'all this. So this is Matthew chapter 13. I'm going to start at verse 24 through 30. I was looking for my glasses, but I'm just going to turn on some light. Okay, turn on some lights so I can see. So 24 through 30, this is what it says. This is where he actually speaks the parable. So he says, Jesus told them another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like a man who sowed good seed in his field. But while everyone was sleeping, the enemy came and sowed weeds among the wheat and went away. When the wheat sprouted and formed heads, then the weeds also appeared. The owner's servants came to him and said, Sir, didn't you sow good seed in your field? Where then did the weeds come from? An enemy did this, he replied. The servants asked him, Do you want us to go and pull them up? No, he answered, because while you're pulling the weeds, you may pull up the wheat with them. Let both grow together until the harvest. At that time, I will tell the harvesters, first collect the weeds and tie them in bundles to be burned, then gather the wheat and bring them into my barn. So y'all know that I've been like getting out into the garden and I've been pulling up weeds, and I've accidentally pulled up some good seed that I had to like either hurry up and get replanted again, or but this was the scripture that I have always thought about when it came to chopping weeds and you know, pulling, you know, just to make sure, because the weeds definitely look different from the plant, but when they're young they do look exactly alike. In some plants and some weeds just totally look alike. So anyway, like I've always thought about this when it came to gardening, but I am seeing this also in the area of dealing with our adults or our children, right? And so imagine you're raising your child, okay? Because the child is the field. The heart of the child is the field, and the seeds, the instructions, the discipline, you know, how you train your child, that's the good seed, right? But then as they begin to grow up and begin to do different things, you're like, okay, wait a minute, where did they get this from? What happened here? What happened here? Which is why it is so necessary to protect the child, to listen to them, you know, see what's going on with them, you know, because here's the deal. When you allow, and I think I had made the comment on this, when you allow the television to be the babysitter, when you're not mindful of your young people's associations, you know, according to 1 Corinthians 15:33, bad association spoils useful habits. You know, so when you're not mindful of who they're associating with, things can happen, and they can learn and they can pick up things. TV, the music they listen to, the books they read, again, associations, things can happen, and they can pick up things that ultimately can do them harm, or ultimately can warp their view on things. So here there was good seed that was planted, but it says while everyone was sleeping, when you weren't paying attention, an enemy came in and sowed weeds among the wheat. So among the good seed that you planted, that you sowed, some bad seed was sown too. And it happened during a time when they were sleeping, during a time when they were not paying attention. And so the issue now comes with, as they grow older and they begin to grow up now, these parents, us parents, would now have to, for real, intercede in prayer, you know, and sometimes it'll take weeping, sometimes it'll take sleepless nights, sometimes it'll take fasting. Jesus says some things you can't get rid of except for through prayer and fasting. You know, sometimes you really have to go all out in order to protect. You have to go all out in order to change, you know, in order to reach the heart of the heart of the individual, the heart of the adult child, to let them know, or to help them to reason through whatever it is that they're going through. So this is in verse number 34, actually it's 37 through 43, he gives the answer to this about the wheat and the tares. So I'm going to start at verse 34. It says, Jesus spoke all these things to the crowd in parables. He did not say anything to them without using a parable. So was fulfilled what was spoken through the prophet. I opened my mouth in parables. I uttered things hidden since the creation of the world. Then he left the crowd and went into the house. His disciples came to him and said, "Explain to us the parable of the weeds and in the field." Explain to me the weeds in the field. And I get it now. I get it now. So it says, he answered, verse 37, he answered. This is Matthew chapter 13, by the way. It says, he answered, "The one who sowed the good seed is the Son of Man. The field is the world. The good seed stands for the sons of the kingdom. The weeds are the sons of the evil one, and the enemy who sows them is the devil. The harvest is the end of the age, and the harvesters are angels. As the weeds are pulled up and burned in the fire, so it will be at the end of the age. The Son of Man will send out his angels, and they will weed out of his kingdom everything that causes sin and all who do evil. They will throw them into the fiery furnace, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Then the righteous will shine like the sun in the kingdom of their Father. He who has ears, let him hear." I've read that parable so many times, and this will be the first time that I can actually say, oh my gosh, I get it. 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 So let me take that and bring it down to our time. When you're raising a child, we love, like, as a parent, you teach your children, you teach them a lot of different things, right? But when you sit them in front of that, my husband said that his mom used to call it the idiot box. When you sit your child in front of a TV, or say you take them over to a babysitter, and they're watching the child, but they also put them in a little bouncer and sit them in front of the TV. Well, you're teaching the child, but so is the TV. So is the commercials. So is like if you send your child to daycare, whoever's at the daycare, they're teaching the child. And whoever is at the school, they're teaching the child. And the child is picking up from friends. And let me tell you, it is work. It is work. I have seen posts over the years, not recently, but over the years, where parents like really thought they were doing something because they put a roof over the child's head, and because they clothe the child and feed the child, make sure the child is presentable, and they're really doing something. But let me tell you, it is more than paying attention to the outward body, the outward. You really have to pay attention to what's here. Jesus Christ said that it's not what we put in our mouths that defile us, but it's what comes out of our mouth. And what comes out of our mouth that defiles is what comes from the heart. What comes out of the mouth comes from the heart. What gets into the heart comes from what we meditate on. What we meditate on comes from what we see and what we hear. Okay, y'all catching that? I'm going to do that again. It is not what goes in our mouth that defiles us, because what goes in our mouth goes down our throat into the stomach and it comes out, right? But Jesus said that it's what comes out of the mouth that defiles us. What comes out of our mouth comes from the heart. What gets into the heart comes from what we think about. What we think about comes from what we see and what we hear. Okay? All right? That's what you got to pay attention to. And where as parents, the focus had been on working to provide and cook, clothe, and put a roof over and feed. If that has been the focus, these children are growing up and they're learning some things as far as behavior and interaction within the house. But what's really settling down into their little minds and their hearts is what they're seeing on TV, which is where they're spending the majority of their time, or with their friends, or what they're learning. So as they get older, and they begin making choices, maybe some bad choices and some good choices, but as they begin doing things, when they get older and things begin to reveal itself, and then you wonder, why, and why, and this and that. Like, for instance, I think about now that young man who did that shooting over in Texas. I think they said he was 18. I'm not exactly sure, but what was going on in his mind? What was going on in his mind? What trouble was he dealing with in his mind that was dropping down into his heart to make him to begin to do something so vile? What was going on here? And now that he's dead, now that he's done all this harm to others, and now that he's dead, his parents, his family, like his cousins, his aunts, his uncles, what are they feeling? What are they thinking about everything? How shocked are they about everything? And so that takes me back to this parable that Jesus taught about the weeds and the wheat. As a parent, you might plant good seed, but it is when you are sleeping that an enemy slips in and plants things that shouldn't. Like, for instance, for those who have experienced abuse as a child, maybe been molested as a child, maybe has experienced verbal abuse or any type of abuse, these things that did not happen at the hands of the parent. Why did that happen? Did the parent know? These things, according to the scripture, these things happened when they were sleeping, when someone was not paying attention. So he's telling us, what's going on and what's happening. And I like how Job dealt with his. Job constantly intercede. I like how the father of the young boy who kept falling into the fire, like, he did not give up. He went to seek treatment for his son. And even though the disciples could not get rid of it, this boy, this father, he was intent on receiving treatment for his son. So he says, this is verse number 22 of Mark chapter 9. It says, it is often thrown him into the fire or water to kill him. But if you can do anything, take pity on us and help us. Like, this father was serious about his son. He wanted help. So he was interceding. And see, again, and that was the point that I was bringing out, that we see the raising of children as they're growing up, but you don't see, and nobody really talks about, the intercession that happens for the adult children. Nobody sees that. Somebody pray for me. Oh, thank you, Lord Jesus. So Jesus says in verse 23, if you can, Jesus said, everything is possible for him who believes. So that I want to encourage you, if you have adult children who are going through anything, don't stop believing for them. Don't stop hoping for them, that they can have a future, that they can be whoever they want to be. Don't stop. Don't speak over them the things that they're going through. Speak to their future. It says anything is possible for him who believes. Immediately, I love this. This is verse number 24. Immediately the boy's father exclaimed, I do believe. Help me overcome my unbelief. I love that. When Jesus saw the crowd was running to the scene, he rebuked the evil spirit. You deaf and mute spirit. He said, you deaf and mute spirit. He said, I command you, come out of him and never enter him again. I love it. I also love the parable of the prodigal child. The prodigal son, the one where the son wanted his inheritance right away. He wanted it now. He didn't want to wait till his father had died. He wanted it now. And then he went off and squandered it. And then when things got really, really bad, because where he was, that he finally, when he came to his senses, he decided to return home and maybe, work as one of the slaves of the father. But the father had hope. The father believed. The father did not give up. And so the father was watching for his son daily, just watching. And when he saw his son afar off coming, he ran out to go meet him. So the son never even got all the way home. That's the attitude that we have as parents for our adults. We're always hoping, like when the children are little, like we're excited for them. We're excited for their future. They could be whoever they want to be. They could be doctors and lawyers and whatever they want to be, not just doctors and lawyers, but whatever they want to be. Just the world is their oyster. Like they can choose. They can be teachers, you know, they could be whatever. So we need to not give up that hope. So when our children are going through, our adults go through different things, when they hit pitfalls, you know, we need to talk to them and encourage them. You can come out of this. You can come out of this. You could do this. You know, God said he knows the plans he has for you, plans to give you a future and a hope, not to do you any harm. You know, we need to speak these things to the children. We need to pray. We need to get on our knees. We need to intercede. We don't need to ever give up on our children. Ever. Job didn't. I love it. I love this story, and I'm grateful to God for showing me that. Okay, so I'm about to go so I can post this video. It was longer than what I expected, but I'm quite sure, like, if we go over those verses, like Job chapter 1, because that was witness number 1, Mark chapter 9, that was witness number 2 of dealing with your adult children, Matthew chapter 13, it's the latter half of Matthew chapter 13, where it talks about the wheat and the tares, and it lets us know, you know, we done worked hard. Like some of you be like, you know, I was saying, you know, I brought you in this world, I take you out. You know, when you're dealing with your adult children and they get beside themselves, you know, and you wonder, you know, why, you know, what happened? What did I do? You didn't do anything. But when you weren't paying attention, an enemy stuck in and planted a seed. Now you got to go and you got to deal with this until you're able to get that root, that weed up out of there, you know. But here's the deal. The weeds will be pulled. Let me go back and share that part. The weeds will be pulled. Your children will be delivered. It says, let both. I'm gonna go back. Verse 28. An enemy did this. He replied. The servants asked him, "Do you want us to go and pull them up?" Talking about the weeds. He said, "No," he answered, "because while you're pulling the weeds, you might root up the wheat with them." It says, "Let both grow together until the harvest. At that time, I will tell the harvesters, first collect the weeds and tie them in bundles to be burned, then gather the wheat and bring it into my barn." I love that. So the wheat, they will be delivered. The wheat will be pulled up and they will be fine. They will be just fine. Don't give up hope on your child. Don't give up hope on your daughter. Don't give up hope on your son. Never give up hope. It's never too late. Never too late for them. I don't care what they went through. That trial, that test will become a testimony later on. You just love them through it, and you keep pay attention to everything that is said and spoken around the child. And this time, if you're dealing with adult children, pay attention to the heart, because that's what matters. And if you're dealing with young children, start now. Pay attention to the heart, because that's what matters. God's words say to train up a boy in the way he should go, and when he becomes a man, he will not depart from it. So pay attention to the heart. That is about that last scripture that I quoted is about maturity. It's not about age. Okay, age is nothing but a number. All right, I'm about to go. Bye. Hey, in preparing to upload this video, as I was going over it again, listening to see if I needed to do any edits, there was something that came to me. Sometimes our children, when they're small, you know, will go through things and we'll be like, you know, I didn't raise you like that. You know, say they got into some issue in school or whatever, and we'll be like, I didn't raise you like that, you know, yada, yada. What I want to share is this. Sometimes in our disciplining a behavior of a child, we only address the issue as to how it pertains to in our home, living in our own home. But when we deal with the heart, we are to address not just what happens in the home, but how it affects and impacts life, period. Otherwise, the child will only understand certain behaviors for how it impacts the home, or how it affects the home, and they won't understand that these same behaviors are not to happen even outside the home. So again, that's why we have to reach the heart, especially when disciplining, especially when correcting. It's important that we make sure not just to talk to the ears, not just to like discipline like many people do, corporal discipline, where they're popping hands or however, but that does not always teach. So it's important to reach the heart, and not just to reach the heart of the child for the four walls that you live in, because just because a child understands what they cannot do within the confines of one's home does not mean that they understand also that this same behavior is not to be done outside the home, and why, the impact that it has not only on them but people around them, and how their lives impact others. We don't always understand, and I'd say that way, we don't always understand that we're all connected in this world that we live in, where there's so much division being taught, so much racism, and people who are into nationalities, divisions in religion, division, just all types of divisions in this world. So we're so busy dividing in this world that we don't understand that we all are connected and we all affect one another. So even in the area of parenting, as it applies to discipline, we need to make sure that we're not just spanking, not just yelling, but that we're really, and not just talking to ears also, because sometimes you could talk to a child and it'll go through one ear and out the other. But we really want to make sure that we're reaching the heart, and that we're helping these children to understand the consequences of certain behaviors, and how what they do will affect not just themselves, but affect how it will affect others. So, okay, that be all. Be blessed. Bye.